Hello again, thanks for joining. So I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Jouef. I really like their models, it's always something a bit unusual, but their mechanics can be a bit temperamental and sometimes the fit and finish is a bit ropey as well. I'm hoping this isn't going to be one. This is number 8362 in the Jouef catalogue and it's a BB class electric locomotive. This one number 25531. Now I've had one of these electric locomotives before which I've reviewed on this channel and I was pleasantly surprised with it. I'm hoping this will be similar, so let's get this open and we'll check it out. So I do like French locomotives of this era. They have so much character to them and a lot of style as well. This one looks to be really quite good actually. I'm quite impressed already, but let's just be sure by checking it close up. So I love the looks of these locomotives, very boxy. This one is obviously in the green with the white stripes and it has the SNCF logo on the front there, which is really nice. I can already see that some of the masking on that V-shaped logo on the front is a bit off, but the number is very clear, you can read that nicely. And it looks as though possibly we have some lighting on these if these lights are to be believed. And we have these jumper cables here as an extra part that's been added on in the black plastic. We don't have flush fit glazing of course, but it is very clear and we have some windscreen wipers moulded into the plastic. I don't think there's any interior in here, and at the side you can see we have also some extra parts with these handrails which have been added on in black plastic too. Down at the front we've got a red part on the buffer beam, another white piece printed on. The lining isn't too bad, it goes all the way around the edges of the cab which doesn't seem to have any problems. But it does have this strange hole here. I'm not sure if that's prototypical or not. And the buffers here in the grey plastic are actually part of the chassis, which we'll have a look at in a moment. So looking down the side of this locomotive, there's a lot of grills here, which are all moulded pretty well. And it has this white part surrounding them, which is printed on. Not too good in some places, but that might have actually worn out in age, because this is a vintage model I got second hand. You always wonder about price, but I got a whole bunch of Jouef stuff as a job lot, so I'm not exactly sure how much this locomotive would be. I guess on the second-hand market it would be possibly £30 to £40. But looking down here we've got another white stripe running the whole length of the locomotive. It doesn't go too good at some points. It looks as though the paint went a bit off, but it's not too bad and it doesn't have any fuzzy edges as far as I can see. This number here is very clear and you can read it easily, and also you can read the SNCF down this end of the locomotive. I do like the handrails around the door, but the door isn't that well defined in the moulding. And we have a hole here with a bit of grey plastic, little clips which are holding it together. But we do have these steps here moulded into the main piece of green plastic. Up on the roof we have these horns here, which is part of the main moulding. Very easy to break those off. An extra piece here of this little handrail and a little bit of checkerboard. But the rest of it is part of the main moulding, moulded in there. It actually looks not too bad. We've got an extra piece up here, this little box. And this part in the middle is being painted silver. There's some masking issues on this and it does look a bit odd at how it's offset a little bit here and it kind of goes over this grille. It's maybe not exactly right, and the masking doesn't work that well on the other side of the locomotive at all. And it does look as though we have an extra piece of the grills inside there. You'll notice we have the electrical gear. This is a metal cable that runs between the two pantographs and it's inside some plastic insulators. The pantographs are all made of metal and they spring up not too bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. But they do look really quite cool and very stylish. We've got these very thin runners on the top. I don't think there's any pickup from overhead on this model, but we'll open it up and check that out in a minute. So looking at the bogies here, there's a lot of detail moulded, but it's not deep relief. They seem to use this grey plastic on Jouef models quite a lot and it's not the best. And it sometimes has moulding marks on it. This has a coupling out the front, which is really just a hook hanging off the front of the bogie. And in the middle we have some more grey plastic moulded for this piece here, which has got some rivet detail on it, not too bad looking. Underneath you can see Jouef made in France. This front bogie here is where the pickup happens. It's just the usual case of those copper sliders running on the axles of the wheels, which do have big flanges on them, but obviously that's indicative of the era that this model came out. If you look further back, we've got the motor sitting on top of this bogie here. We've got drive to both axles, plastic gearbox here, and we've got traction tyres all round. So the motor sits back a little bit. The last Jouef locomotive I had with this setup actually ran really badly. So I'm going to open this up first by undoing this screw and we'll give it a bit of a clean up before we give it a try. That was a bit scary levering this model apart, but we got there without damaging it. Underneath here, obviously no provision for overhead pickup. You can see that the pantographs have kind of been riveted onto the plastic. We do have provision for lighting, and you can see the glazing there as well. And here is the chassis. It's a plastic chassis, lights at both ends, just little light bulbs. here's the pickup from the front bogie, and you can see the motor here sitting on top of the rear bogie. So just put some power onto the contacts back here. Both light bulbs worked and also the motor worked as well, very strongly as well actually. So normally it's the pickups that cause the problem on these Jouef models, so I'm just going to take this apart and clean up these contacts and the wheels as well. Well, I've given it a clean as best I can, and I think it's going to run okay. I gave it a little bit of oil as well, but we're going to have to keep everything crossed just in case, because it is an old Jouef made in France model. As normal, this is my Hornby third radius track, and I'm using an H&M controller on 12 volts DC. So let's give it some power and see what happens. Well, the model railway gods must have been shining on me today, because this actually works okay. I really didn't expect that, and also the lights work as well, brightly too. It does have a bit of a comedy wobble as well, which is quite funny, but it certainly really surprised me that I've managed to get a Jouef model running not too bad. But let's put this on the scales and we'll see how much it weighs. So this model weighs 212 grams. So Jouef's model of this BB class electric locomotive has actually turned out to be quite surprising as well. The last one I did also surprised me, so it kind of follows suit that this would also do the same. But there's no getting away from the fact that the Jouef mechanism that they've deployed onto this model just really isn't that good. And you're always going to have to constantly clean and battle with it. It's never going to be a great runner, but once it gets going, it should run around the layout not too bad at all. There are some compromises here. Some of the masking isn't that great, the moulding isn't fantastic, you don't have flush fit glazing, and the lighting isn't really that good. But it is a product of its time and it's made to a budget, and in that respect it's got a lot going for it. One of the things I really like about the BB class locomotive is the actual style of it. It really looks quite French design, and this green colour is actually really nice on this locomotive. It's not going to be for everyone, especially if you're looking for the most recent, up-to-date whiz-bang locomotives. This absolutely definitely isn't that. But if you like vintage locomotives, this is probably one to look out for in the Jouef range. So I definitely recommend it if you're a collector or somebody who doesn't always want the latest gimmicks and fancy stuff. And in that respect, this could be a winner for you. But that's just what I think. What do you think about this locomotive? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'll put this on the turntable and you can see all the way around. Thanks for joining me on this risky escapade into the world of Jouef locomotives again. I appreciate your company and I will see you on the next one.
So model train, model worlds, choo choo, model trains, in tiny worlds, choo choo, model trains, tiny train, model worlds, choo choo, model trains, in tiny worlds, choo choo.